You can change your entire life by just changing one habit. Subscribe to our podcast and make listening a habit.
Change your mindset, manifest your dream life, and live magically with Rise and Align.
Raising the frequency one episode at a time.
Everything is always working out for us. Hello and welcome back to the Rise and Align podcast, where we talk about all things high vibrational. My name is Demi.
And I'm Haley, and today we are going to do a witchy episode because it is witchy season, and I really want to talk about what is spell work, because as a society I feel like we've been trained so heavily on witches being this really dramatic thing, and especially in movies and stuff, you think about Hocus Pocus, witches are these dark creatures that are out in the night and they hang out in dark rooms and do stuff on their cauldron and
children's souls.
It's so dramatic, and I think that that's really impacted how many people in society view witches, and it couldn't be farther from the truth, I feel like. And I just think it is so important to normalize what being a witch is all about, and to kind of reconnect people with that part of ourselves, because it, I think, is a natural way of being. And I think so much of our everyday activities could be considered a spell, especially if you are putting intention behind it. And I think that that's the magic piece, right, is intention. So that being said, it's just so important for us to talk about this and realize that we're casting spells every day. Things that we're speaking, the things that we're eating, our thoughts, where we're focusing our attention, those are all spells, whether you realize it or not. And then when you start creating a life that has a little more ritual to it, where you are putting intention into these everyday tasks, your life does become more magical, and these do become spells.
Absolutely. I think there's so many things I have to say, so many directions we could go in with this, but my first thought here was, I saw a video the other day talking about how prior to Christianity, there was basically what we know as witches. And it wasn't necessarily a religion as much as it was a way of life and a connecting to the earth, and using plant medicine to heal. And I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about literal drinking Maline to clear your lungs, things like that, to heal your body and to stay healthy, and walking around barefoot, and burning fires to scare away negative energy and release what isn't serving them, and things like that. They're thousands of year old practices. It's not just this new age, quote unquote witchy woo woo. And I kind of hate that word. I kind of hate it, because I feel like so many people, they say oh yeah, that's witchy woo woo, and what they mean by that is they think it's crazy nonsense. But if we look at, say, the Four Agreements talks about how our words are quite literally spells, and that's why we call it spelling. The Four Agreements has nothing to do with witches or magic or anything like that. And interestingly, I'm pretty sure, isn't it I don't remember if it's the first part of the Bible, but it basically says the first thing there was the word, right? And when you and I are talking about spell work and doing spells, it's so much so about your intention and your belief going into whatever you're doing. So for example, I bought this cinnamon scented broom the other day. Freaking love those. It's just such a vibe this time of year. And I put it next to my front door, one, for protection, and two, because every time that the doors open, it brings in cinnamon, which is meant to bring abundance. Now, you might say, that sounds crazy, blah, that's crazy, that's witchy woo woo, right there. And I would counter you and say that, one, everything is made up of energy, so everything has a specific frequency that it vibrates at, and cinnamon very well might vibrate at the frequency of abundance. And then two, what you believe becomes. So whether or not the practices you're doing are quote unquote witchy woo woo, that's irrelevant. The whole point is, if you believe in something and you're putting that intention towards it, and your energy aligns because you feel that that is true, then it's 100% more likely to be the outcome of what's happening. And that's spell work. And I love that so many people are now realizing, like, oh, I can make my life into this like cool, fun ritual and enjoy it and believe that the thing that I'm doing is going to bring me abundance or health or wealth or love, or, you know, whatever their intention is that they're putting into it. That's what matters. That's what's so powerful.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. And to me, this is kind of where like witchcraft, spirituality, and like science or quantum physics like
Yep.
intertwine. It's all energy.
Yep.
And like law of attraction, what you are vibrating at is what you're going to attract. So if you do practices that help you align with that energy, you're going to attract that. And that's exactly what spell work is. And even if you think of more like, I want to say like casting spells, like but if you're doing like things with like herbs and crystals and things like that, you are working with tools that are naturally vibrating at that energy. So of course, just holding that herb doesn't necessarily align you with that energy, but it supports that energy. So if you can use those tools to teach yourself how to vibrate at that energy, like that can be so valuable. But I also think it's important for people to know, like, you don't need those external things to do spells. Like they don't have to be elaborate. You don't have to have all the crystals in the world and this big fancy altar and do all these big things that take all day. Like I feel like a lot of people make it look like it has to be that way. But in fact, it's about taking little micro like mindset shifts and micro changes in your routine that help you connect with that energy and make it more a part of your life. Like you think about your morning coffee or your morning tea. I think a lot of people just drink that when they're in a rush in the morning, and they're just like drinking their coffee super fast and doing all their things. And like, I just feel like that is going to attract more chaos into your day. But if you you wake up 5 minutes earlier and you have 5 extra minutes to sit with your morning coffee, where you can speak your intentions into your coffee, you can stir your intentions into your coffee, and then you are energetically and literally taking that into your body. Like that is such a small, easy ritual that you can do to connect with what you want, connect with the energy of what you want. And it takes just a couple minutes. It just takes that mindfulness, that intention. And I think that another thing that can make this really powerful is pairing it with emotion. Like, and that's why we were just talking about like speaking and like the 4 agreements, like spelling, you're speaking your reality into existence. But that is the same with music, but I feel like it takes it even a step further, because music is so emotive. It connects you with an emotion. So if you are singing or listening to music, that alone can be a spell, because you're feeling that emotion while speaking something into existence. And there you go. That's a spell.
Yeah, I think people just aren't aware of that, and they think it has to be some big elaborate woo-woo thing. Or there's also the perception that, well, if you think you're a witch, you think you're magic. And like, well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I really do. I think that this whole physical reality is the most incredible magic trick. Like honestly, it's just, you cannot tell me that you don't believe magic is real and then witness the world that we exist in. But that said, it doesn't mean that I literally hop on my broom and fly away all the time, you know, just once in a while. No, but I think in order for magic to be real, you must believe in it. You must recognize it. And it doesn't have to be Disney's version. It can simply be the fact that you realize that the intention you're setting is becoming the reality for you. that's magic, you know?
Exactly. It's so true. And that is what frustrates me so much, even about like Disney. And like, even like I loved the show Charmed, but again, that just it creates such a specific perspective on witchcraft. And it's like, you know, they're fighting demons. And you know what? Now that I think about it, energetically, we kind of are fighting off demons. Like, we are beings of light. But it's because we are doing micro practices every day that connects us back with our inner light. And that in itself has an influence on the collective. And we talked about that in our last episode with Kara. Like, when you are aligning yourself energetically, that does have an impact on the collective. So, you know, we are healing the planet. And I think that I just love it because a lot of the things we talk about, if we're in kind of like the spiritual lane, also aligns with the witch lane. And that's something that I love so much, but I feel like oftentimes those two things, or people like think of them as two separate things. Like you're either a witch or you're spiritual. But like it's all connected. Like the practices and the way of being, it's like all very similar. And I just love like noticing the different, or like like there's different words for the same thing in so many things, even religion and things like that. They all have different words for like the same thing.
I was just gonna say too, like, one, everything intertwines, like everything is related. We always say that, and it's so true. And two, a lot of people also think that if you are like claiming to be a witch, then you can't possibly be religious or believe in God. And like that is so far from the truth. Like it's one doesn't cancel out the other. They're not against each other. And I know that people are going to make the argument that like it says in the Bible, like don't use divination cards, for example. And what I've learned from people is that they think that if you are a witch or using like tarot cards, that you are worshiping an entity outside of God that they perceive to be negative. And I don't think that's true at all. I do believe in God. I do pray in my own way. I definitely have my own like version of connection that I think is private between yourself and your God, or you know, whatever you subscribe to, believe in. But it's not I'm a witch and so I don't believe in God, or well, I believe in God and so I couldn't be a witch. You know, that's not it's both. It can be both. It maybe isn't always for everybody. I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me it's both.
Yes, that's so true. And just thinking about like the Bible, I do feel like there are things that have been lost in translation. You know, the Bible was not written in English initially, and there are not always an equal term for something in a different language. So it can be replaced with something that then the message ends up being misconstrued, especially if it's through multiple languages. And also life was different back then. So like, what were they considering a divination tool then? It could be very different than what we perceive that as today. Along with that, like with tarot and other divination tools, I actually find that to be one of the best ways to connect with God.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because you are creating space for it to speak to you and through you, which I think is so special. And another thing that, you know, really gets misconstrued in like media and television and things like that, and it's always super cheesy and like this big like shop you go in and you get this really cheesy reading, and usually like something bad happens and it's like so dramatic.
The death card upside down.
But it's not like that at all. Like truly, that practice for me, it's like a 5-minute morning practice where I sit with myself, I pull a card, like I ask like God or the universe a question, like what what can I learn from this day, or what, it can be a question that adds value to your life,
Yep.
and like, I love it. It's such an amazing tool. And there's another tangent I was going to go on, but I went on that one for too long.
I will say too, like, it's interesting people's perception of tarot or oracle cards when they haven't used them. For me, I think there's so much of like guidance and like a thought prompt or like even a writing prompt if you use it to journal and stuff. It isn't necessarily that I'm like, oh, these cards are making my life decisions for me. Like, no, I'm not. No.
And it's not like reading the future.
No, oh God, no, it's not that at all. No, it's just like, what am I meant to hear right now? And you can say like, oh, I don't believe in that, and it's probably just nonsense. And sure, even if that's true though, they do give you something to think about, something to ponder about. And for me, like, for example, in meditation, if you're just sitting quietly with yourself and maybe you just read a tarot card to yourself, whatever thoughts come to you, whatever ideas might come to you in those moments of like quiet connection, those are from God to me. I don't think that's from some other evil source. And it's usually something very like positive, comforting, or sometimes it's something eye-opening or maybe harder to face, but a truth that like, yeah, I'm gonna have to make a decision here in my life, or whatever. But I don't think it's some evil entity at all. I think it's a connection.
In a way, I think that could be someone's shadow, like their excuse for not exploring that, because they know they would have to like face something deeper within themselves they're not ready to, like their own like inner demon they think that they're trying to fight, which could be true, like so that's super interesting. And I also love at the beginning you were talking about how this being a witch, or like we can call it a witch, but it could be wise women, they have many other terms for it, druids, whatever. It is such an old practice. Like it's a way of being that connects you with energy, with the earth, like a more natural way of being. And I think that when you start to add more intention into your life and think about yourself as doing little spells, you are beginning to break apart this witch wound that I think so many people have, because the society got to a point where they began killing witches, and a lot of them were women. And so women subconsciously were taught to suppress their gifts, their practices, their tools, to rely on nature to heal. Like you start suppressing these parts of yourself because you learn it's not safe to do that. And I think that we carry so much like shame and guilt and just repressed like femininity or witchiness from that time period. And when you start to openly practice doing spells, you're like healing that lineage of women who were too afraid to do that. And that in itself is so healing to the collective. And I think it's really important work, and it shows up in a lot of different ways than we would even think. Like even something as simple as like sisterhood, or like having really close like girlfriends. At this in history, a lot of when the witch trials were happening, a lot of women would kind of be forced to turn on each other, or would be like fearful of their friends and their sisters, because if they could get blamed for being a witch in order to save themselves. So then like you basically are giving your friend a death sentence. And like that is something that I think subconsciously could carry with us. And I know realistically in today's age, that's not what we're thinking, like, oh, I'm gonna die, like if Sandra finds this out about me or something, like, but we do, I think, kind of, or some people can resist that closeness, but you don't think as deep of like, 200 years ago, my great great.
Yeah.
But I think that's just something that we kind of carry along with us. And there's a lot of other examples, but I think that that's just one reason why it's so important to just be open to your magic and open to practicing more intention and connecting with the energy around us. And I do have a Healing Your Witch Wound guide that I love so much. And I think it's so important. I think anyone would benefit from it. And if that's something you're interested in, I recommend you check it out. I'll have the link in our show notes. But it's really interesting to think about, like, we truly do carry wounding through like generations, through lineages, and it's interesting how it can show up and you don't even like realize like where it's always coming from.
Yes. I mean, there are so many studies on ancestral trauma and like epigenetics proving that we do quite literally carry that trauma in our genetics. But you wouldn't ever logically be like, yeah, that's why I don't have girlfriends, or like that's why girls in high school are so catty to each other. That's why they like naturally don't like each other. Like, you would never connect that. And it is really interesting because I think it all comes down to like feminine intuition and connecting back to that, not being afraid to follow that and share that, and also be connected to other women around you. And I know like back in ancient Roman times, or like also like Cleopatra's time, women were actually really, really valued and high up in society, and they often used women as not prophets necessarily, but like they would give advice to the people in power or the men in power. Like they would be more in charge of like the decisions, and they might have like an inkling or an intuition or some reason why they thought that we should, take this path or go, this way within politics. And that like kind of completely was abolished with the whole witch trial concept and murdering women who were intelligent and who were healing people and who were following their intuition and who were gathering with other women. And I think it's because society felt threatened, because women are very powerful, and so I think because of that trauma, we're like afraid to do that. Sometimes we're afraid to like really trust our intuition or move in that way, or move too big, set your goals too big. Or also I think probably on a subconscious level, we may fear sharing like our goals and desires with other women and like really wanting to connect that way, because it's like, what if she backstabs me and then I'll die?
Right.
Yeah.
It can also impact like your ability to share your truth, because your voice, like, I guess women or witches, their voice was suppressed for so long, and it can be scary to speak your truth, and not just to women but just in general, or to be too loud, too much, too whatever, to draw too much attention. And that's something that I've really had to work with and heal within myself, is my willingness to be seen and speak my truth. Like, I was so fearful of being seen, and that's, as I've gone farther and further down my path of being a witch and spirituality and my spiritual awakening, I've learned, I think that that's a piece of it. Like, part of my witch wound is like I was so scared to speak out or speak up, because what if I died?
Yeah.
And like, again, it comes down to like, maybe I wasn't thinking that consciously, like I could die for doing this, but people have been killed for speaking their truth and living their truth, I should say. So your body holds on to that memory, and like I've had to work through that. And obviously I feel like I've come a long way. Like we have a podcast like where anyone can hear this. And I think it could be scary to not only have a podcast, but to talk about being a witch. Like, what I'm like so proud of myself and of us, and just like the world in general being open to receive this and to kind of make it their own. It's like, it's amazing. Like, I'm proud of all of us.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because there are times where, like, for example, you'll introduce yourself to a new host and you'll be like, I'm a witch. And even though, like, I know that. I know that. And I am too, honestly. But I'm like, I don't want to say it. Shh. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. They're going to judge us. It's just like a little internal voice. And, like, realistically, I'm like, no. Like, if anyone just asked us questions or listened to us, it wouldn't be anything weird. But there's just this little inkling inside of me that's like, shh, no, we can't tell them.
Yes, that's the witch wound. That is the witch wound showing up. And it has taken a lot for me to be able to do that. And I do, what has been so lovely is the people that we have had on the podcast who I have said that to, they're like, oh my gosh, like, I love that. They've responded really well to it. They weren't like,
never mind, hung up.
who, how dare you? Like, and that in itself is like rewarding too, because it's reinforcing like that more positive aspect of being a witch, which I, again, coming back to energy, like, I think I'm just creating that for myself. Like, I am okay with authentically showing up as myself as a witch. So then that will be received well. But if I was like nervous or embarrassed to be like, oh my God, they're going to judge me for being a witch, like, they probably will. So it does come down to energetically, like, how you truly feel.
Everything always comes back to that and to what you believe, 100%.
I also think that it's also important to note, like, spell work, it's not about like controlling a circumstance or forcing a circumstance, but again, it comes back to energy and aligning yourself with the frequency and setting that intention for what you want. That doesn't mean if it doesn't go exactly how you want it to, like you failed or, your spell failed or you didn't do it right. It's just about aligning yourself. It's not about forcing a situation, which does remind me of the direction I wanted to go. So I wanted to ask you if you think that you can hex other people.
No, I don't. Gosh, I wish I could remember the book I was reading. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it was Busting Loose from the Money Game. That is such a good mindset book. Oh my God, it's so good. The way he describes reality functioning in that book, I couldn't describe it better myself. And it's hilarious because while you're reading it, there's a page that says something along the lines of, like, there's only one consciousness, and so I don't even exist and you don't even exist, but you created this book in your mind, and like basically you wrote this. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is how I think. And in the book he talks about like our ability to manifest and create the reality that we desire, basically, and how we function like reality functions like a hologram, and our subconscious is holding on to the pattern that projects into the reality. But anyway, he goes on to say that you can attract anything to yourself, like quote unquote good and bad, but you cannot like put evil towards another. Like, you cannot hex another. But here's something I think is really powerful. I do believe in karma, and I think that's because I so deeply believe in the law of attraction. So it's not that I'm necessarily judging another person, but that whatever you're vibrating at, you're going to attract. So like, there was this creepy guy one time, and I just didn't like the way that he was moving. I didn't like the way he was treating me. And I just thought, ugh. And so many people in those circumstances will be like, you should do this to them, or you should do that. I've had people in my life lately be like, I'll write a bad review about them because they did this to you. And I'm like, no, no, I will never, ever use my energy to negatively impact another person, ever, 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 ever. Because what you give out, you get back. And because the universe will solve it for me. I don't need to work. I don't need to effort. I don't need to give energy away. If you're vibrating at a low vibration, you're going to attract everything that matches that. And it's got nothing to do with me, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Exactly. The universe will take care of it. It's not your problem. If you're trying to take care of it, you are becoming that energy.
Yes.
And I have a very similar perspective on that too. a lot of witches, they and everyone has a right to practice witchcraft however they want. I believe that it should be for good, though. I think that being a witch is about putting good energy into the world. And there are some witches who, I don't even know what exactly what the practice is, but it's like, I don't know, you take a piece of like someone's hair and you like put in the freezer or something, or you write their name on something and you put in the freezer, and like you're hexing them, and I don't know. You're trying to put bad ill towards someone else. And I think that if you're in a headspace where that is what you were trying to do, you are going to attract that for yourself. That is the vibration that you are vibrating at. If you are feeling hateful and like you need to spread hate to another, like karma, that's going to come back around to you as well. Like I think that you can only energetically attract what you are aligned with. And if that's like what you're wanting to do to another person, like you have things within you that I think really need to be, I think you need to focus inwards as opposed to like outwardly trying to hurt another or outwardly have bad things happen to another. Like I think it's like you need to actually go within and see like what practices you can do to heal this hatred that you feel. Like do a rage ritual that is so much more productive than trying to hex someone.
Yeah. That also goes back to the concept of putting somebody else on a pedestal, like whether it's a significant other or potential significant other or somebody that you're mad at or don't like. You're giving your energy away in all of those circumstances, and you should be instead paying attention to yourself and aligning with what you truly want. That is the most powerful thing that you can do, and that is truly the only thing we have any power over.
And it also is like, it comes back to that thing of like witchcraft not being like something to control circumstances. It's just about aligning yourself with what you want. And so when you are trying to force something in someone else's reality, that's not how it works. It energetically, it's just about how you're aligning your energy, and you attract what you give off. So if you want, you can attract better things from that person. Great. Like you can become you can evolve your reality to become something really wonderful. But also you can think about like why you attracted that situation in the first place, and then it comes back to yourself again. You don't have control over other people, you just don't, but you have control over your own energy and what you attract. And that is why you cannot hex.
Yeah, exactly, because you're your attraction point, so you cannot attract anything to somebody else, good or bad. You can't do it. It's just goes against the laws of the universe, that's all.
And it comes down to like ethics, like like I just have, I guess, higher standards for myself and like what I like allow myself to put out there. And also that leads me to think of like, if you are wanting to start incorporating little rituals no, actually, pun intended, and or like spell work into your everyday, I think that it's so important. I mean, we've said intention many times, but to be intentional about it, to make sure you're coming from like a grounded state, not like a place where your energy is really chaotic, because I think it can be hard to align yourself when you're not necessarily like grounded and you're in like a chaotic headspace. But I think there's so many different practices that you can do depending on like what you're looking for. So like maybe your intention is to find clarity, so then you're just going to want to do spells or practices that like allow you to connect with that. But yeah, I think it can be difficult to be in your like highest power or like most highest, like, or like harder to set intentions when you're not like in a grounded place, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but absolutely. I think for me, like witchcraft is so much so about alchemizing and aligning and healing, and that is really powerful. And so I could see why maybe people were threatened by it. I think it's quite interesting too that often, I mean, not us necessarily, but everyone kind of refers to like the patriarchy and like it was men against women, but I don't I don't necessarily think that. I think actually that men admire, desire, and maybe even need a woman's intuition in their life to be like whole and complete, and they don't they function differently than us. They have different purpose than us, and masculine energy is so valuable too, and it's not one against the other. It's we are so much more powerful when we work together.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Also, I feel like, just as a side note, I feel like witchy women, when they find their person, like, they find the best people. They're usually men who like have no idea like what's going on, but they just like go with it, and they're like, oh, we're just like, we're gonna sit under the full moon and like do this with our crystals. Okay, like, let's do it. Like, they just go with it. They're just like, love you for you. And I think, again, comes down to energy and like what you're vibrating at and stuff too. But I've just noticed, like, especially other witches that I've connected with online, like, they just have like the coolest partners, and I love to see it.
Yes, I so agree. Yeah, absolutely love it. Well, I wanted to make sure that we mentioned we always list all of our offerings below in the description. So if you are interested, in healing the witch wound, or healing your feminine energy, or alchemizing your life in any way, we have plenty of things to offer, and we always leave them in the description for you. We should pull a card, yeah?
Yes, I do want to add, lastly, we kind of touched on this, but I just want to say that there is no one way to be a witch, and it is so customizable to you and however you want that to look. And so whatever your things are, whatever your thing is, you love astrology, you love herbs, you love crystals, and even if it's none of those things and you just want to live a more intentional life, you can be a witch too. It is not a singular path. It is just putting good energy into the world, being intentional with how you're living. So don't be intimidated by it having to look like a certain way, or doing certain practices. Like, if you don't want to have an altar and do things with like crystals and like all that fancy stuff, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do that to be a witch.
Also, if you are interested in learning more, we do have several wonderful episodes for this time of year. We have an episode where we make pumpkin loaf and bake spells into it. We have an episode on what it means to be a witch. And we have an episode on Samhain, which is the kind of original concept around Halloween. So those are all really wonderful episodes to check out. And we do release an episode every other week. So if you're new here, make sure to check out our next episode. We pull a card every time. I'm so excited to see this deck. It's so pretty. The Magical Botanical Oracle. Oh, I love it. Plants from the Witch's Garden by Maxine Miller and Christopher Penzak. If you are watching the video format, I am holding up the deck if you'd like to check it out for yourself. It'll come when it's ready. Divine timing.
So speaking of one of our witchy tools, we are doing our divination practice, and this is the Sorcerer's Violet card.
Oh. Okay, so there's like a woman within this flower. Show you the card if you're watching the video. The back of these cards is so pretty too. On the back, there's a man and a woman. There's a lot of balance in the back. The front of this card has a moon. Oh my gosh, it has so many symbols. I'm gonna let you read.
So this is my newest deck, and I've just been really called to herbs lately and wanting to connect with and learn more about how they can heal you. And so I think it's really amazing how herbs and plants energetically can impact you, but also heal you. And so that is why I feel called to this deck. And that also makes me think of your journey as a witch is ever evolving. So there's probably always going to be something new that you are excited to explore. But so there's a few different sections. The first being the magical meaning for the Sorcerer's Violet card. And it says that it's often a forgotten ally because it creeps along in low places and is hidden until the purple flowers bloom. The plant's characteristics point to its use in magic. The small but beautiful flower looks like a 5-pointed whirling star and is used in magic to open our psychic powers. As a vine, sometimes known as a tomb vine, it reaches out, grasps, and binds, and has been used in both protection spells and love magic, particularly to draw or connect to a lover or to rekindle or reclaim an old one. The plant can be used to connect with deceased loved ones and reflects the idea of eternal love reaching beyond the grave. The famed occultist Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa associated the Sorcerer's Violet with the star of Polaris, the North Star, indicating it confers a level of steadiness and guidance when we're lost. Some other important things, let's see. So for plant or spirit medicine, it can help us perceive that which is hidden and subtle. Purple aligns spiritually with our psychic eye, our brow center, where we can perceive subtle and spiritual forces. It can help you see and feel things more clearly, awaken your psychic powers, help keep you more grounded and stable. Because it's a 5-petaled flower, it's kind of like a pentagram, which can provide a psychic shield or filter from harmful energy. And then the divination meaning says that the Sorcerer's Violet shows itself in a reading. When it does, it indicates the power of reaching, striving, and opening up more while remaining grounded, centered, and true to our past.
That fits well.
Open up to the bigger picture and explore, but don't forget your roots. Take reasonable precautions and be aware of the subtle forces around you, as the message will not be dramatic, but it will be clear if you're paying attention, like if you're connecting to that more like psychic aspect of yourself. And just to kind of finish this up, in terms of the reverse meaning, it says that it could present when we need to protect ourselves from harm by laying low and paying attention, or when we really need to reflect upon the harder lessons of the past before making our next move. Beloved ancestors could be giving us information on how to proceed if we listen, and lessons of past loves might apply to our current situation. An affirmation for this card is, I see things clearly. I remained grounded as I experienced new things. Okay, that was kind of long-winded, but
that was a good affirmation. I like it.
Yeah, that's really special. It kind of goes back to, like, I've been learning more about herbs, and this is rather informational, but I think that is helpful. I think it helps us kind of see things from a little bit different perspective, and I don't know, I like that.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, thank you for helping us raise the frequency. Please like this episode, subscribe, and share it with anyone you think it might interest. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.